Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Ruben Council and I'm a Senior Associate Director of Admission here at Susquehanna University. We're going to spend some time together talking about the application process and how we get that accomplished here at Susquehanna. And we'll start out very specifically with how to apply to our university. So first and foremost, we'll need to receive your application. You may use the Common Application or the Susquehanna University Success Application. We accept either of them, and we accept them with equal consideration. So my best advice is that if you're planning to apply to several colleges that all accept the Common Application, you should fill that one out and file it with us as well, because it'll ultimately save you a little bit of time in the process. However, if you're looking at a selection of colleges that all seem to have their own specific application process, you may want to consider our Success Application, as it's a little bit more streamlined in comparison. So once we have your application on file, there'll be several other pieces of the puzzle that we'll need in order to complete your materials and get you ready for review. So first and probably most importantly is your high school transcript. So you'll work with your guidance counselor to get that either uploaded to your Common Application or sent directly to our institution. And just know that when we're reviewing these applications, we want to make sure that you've taken as rigorous a schedule as possible in high school. We want you to have challenged yourself. And just know that when we receive that transcript, we do recalculate our GPAs so that we can review everyone on a similar 4.0 grading scale. However, we do also accept weight for advanced coursework. And just so you can be aware, our middle 50% of GPAs are 3.3 to 3.95, and our average is about 3.6. So that'll be the first component. The next component is related to test scores. So we do accept SAT and ACT scores. If you were able to take those prior to our COVID circumstances, then just know that our middle 50% on SAT is about a 1080 to a 1230, with our average score being about 1150. And for ACT, our middle 50% is approximately 23 to 28 for those scores, with an average score of 26. However, we also know that many of you have not been able to take advantage of these tests yet because they've been canceled over the past several months due to COVID in the United States. So just know that Susquehanna University has been test score optional for a very, very long time. So we are well prepared to do your application review without test scores. So if you've not been able to take one of those tests, then please just consider applying as a test score optional candidate. It will in no way impact your ability to be properly reviewed as far as the admission components, and everyone is still going to qualify for full financial aid as well under those circumstances. The next component of your application would be your essay. So this is the one place in your application where you get to have a little bit of your own voice. So we do recommend that you take some good time with this essay and let it be something that's going to give your admission counselor a little bit more of a view into who you are as a person. Take the time to get it proofread by several folks that you trust, because we do read every word of these and we certainly appreciate it when they're as well prepared as possible. So next, we will move to letters of recommendation. And at Susquehanna, we only require that you provide us with one letter of recommendation. However, we are willing to accept as many as you would like to present to us as you paint the picture of yourself as an applicant. This one letter of recommendation should be from one of your school counselors or one of your teachers, someone who has good depth of knowledge of what you bring to the table as an academic. And then, as I mentioned, you can collect others from other folks as well, if you feel that that presents a broader picture of you as an applicant. Now, regardless of which application you use, there will be lots of space for you to also tell us a little bit about yourself and your extracurricular accomplishments. So we are certainly interested to know what types of clubs and organizations you've been part of. Are you an athlete? Are you a musician? Are you an artist? Are you someone who's very passionate about community service? And also, we are interested to know what types of leadership roles you have held in these different organizations as well. That will be an important component of the review process as we move forward. Now, at Susquehanna, we do offer interviews. interviews are not required, but they are certainly encouraged. So if you're someone who has been to campus for a visit, perhaps you've had a general information session, perhaps you've had a chance to meet with faculty at a virtual event over this summer, and you're interested in getting to know more specifically what Susquehanna might have to offer someone like you, an interview is a great place for that to happen. It allows us as admission counselors to get to know you on a very personal level, and it also lets us put you in contact with that information that might be most directly useful as you continue forward in your college search. And also at the time of application, we are going to locate people who would potentially be invited to our honors program at Susquehanna University as well. So for the honors program, we typically target the top 10% of our application pool. So this is by GPA and by test score, and this process happens a little bit later in the fall and early in the spring. We issue invitation letters to those folks that are meeting the qualifications for the honors program. And just know that if you're not one of the people that's automatically considered for honors, but you still feel that you would be a great fit with that program, you're welcome to reach out to us, and we'll have a faculty panel review your materials to see if you might be a great fit for the honors program as well. So that takes us through a lot of the specifics as regards the individual application, but let me also tell you a little bit about application types and application deadlines that we have at Susquehanna. So you'll have to make a decision as to whether you're going to apply early decision, early action, or regular decision. Those are the three different programs that you can apply through. So the first is early decision. And I like to tell a little story regarding early decision because to me, early decision is kind of like a marriage proposal. So if you go out there and you ask someone to marry you and they say yes, then you're pretty much getting married. And with early decision, the understanding is that if you apply early decision, then we will do an early review on your materials. And if we decide to admit you at that point, that means that you'll be withdrawing your other applications to your other schools, and you'll send an enrollment deposit to us before January 15th. So, as I was saying, it's like a marriage proposal because just like with a marriage proposal, if you go out and you ask several people to marry you, when they all find out, they're all going to dump you. And same is true here. If you do early decision and then decide ultimately that you may be going somewhere else, there may be ramifications for that down the road. So, early decision is a plan that is for somebody who is absolutely certain that Susquehanna is the one place that they would far and away rather be than any other college or university. And if you apply to us early decision, then just know that you're going to get some preferential treatment in the review process as well. So our next decision plan is early action. The vast majority of our applicants are going to use early action to apply to Susquehanna. And my best advice is that if a school offers early action, you should take advantage of it because those advantages are all yours. We have an early action 1 deadline on November 1st. We have an early action 2 deadline on December 1st. With an early action application, when your materials are complete, we will begin your review process. And what that means is that when your application is fully complete, within typically 3 weeks, you'll receive notification from us as a university. Now, that notification, let's assume a positive outcome for the purposes of this conversation, because that's certainly more fun. And so if you are complete and you're someone that we feel like is a great fit for Susquehanna University, then you're going to get that large envelope. It's going to have your admission letter in it. It's going to say, "Congratulations, future Riverhawk. We would love to have you join us next fall on campus." And at that point, we'll also be able to tell you what you qualify for in merit-based awards. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Now, at Susquehanna, we also offer regular decision. And my best advice is that you probably shouldn't wait that long because if we've got a strong early decision and early action pool, we may decide to get a little pickier with our regular decision folks. However, if you are someone who is still waiting to apply to college or university after December 1st, we do have that regular decision plan available for you to take advantage of. Now, I mentioned scholarships. And let's talk a little bit more directly about what that entails. Everyone that applies to Susquehanna University is automatically under consideration for academic merit scholarships. There's no additional forms to fill out. There's no additional piece of the puzzle that you need to do other than just your regular application. And just to give you an idea, these awards are based on what you bring to the table as a student. So how strong is your GPA? How strong are your test scores? If you haven't been able to take a test, then we have other mechanisms that we can employ to figure out what this merit-based award will be. And these awards will be up to $38,000 per year towards your cost of attendance at Susquehanna. So these are a significant piece of affordability that we are able to take right off the top based on your hard work in high school. So that's part one. Part two we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation, but just know that there are also additional scholarships available for certain areas of campus. So before we talk about the scholarships, just know that if you are someone in our creative arts, for instance, music, creative writing, or our graphic design or studio art or photography majors, then there will also be a portfolio requirement as part of your application process. And then if you're specifically a music major or a creative writer, just know that there are additional scholarships available based on the strength of what you bring to the table, either as a musician or as a writer. And those folks are identified through the music audition process and through the creative writing portfolio review process. We also have another separate scholarship available for folks that have a strong interest in leadership and community service. So our Susquehanna University Service Leaders Program is a significant scholarship available to our students. It's available to you by a separate application. And don't worry, we'll be reaching out to you with information about that as the Susquehanna University Service Leaders. So if you're successful in that application process, then you will earn additional dollars towards your cost of attendance, and then you will also be paired with a local organization in our community. You'll have about a 10-hour per week commitment to work with that organization over your 4 years while you're at Susquehanna. And each year that you come back, you'll have a new significant layer of commitment within that organization. So we've got lots of different ways to help fund your education at Susquehanna. We've had a good review as far as how you actually apply and get into our institution. And now it's my pleasure to turn things over to my colleague, Brent Wallish, who is going to talk to you in great deal about what I consider the next steps in your application for financial aid at Susquehanna University. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruben. I'm Brent Wallish, Assistant Director of Student Financial Services here at Susquehanna University. I'm going to talk a little bit today about both our office and the application process and what it means to apply for financial aid here at Susquehanna. The Student Financial Services Office really encompasses two primary functions here at SU. The first function is that we handle a lot of the billing and payments at Susquehanna University, or similar to another institutions called a bursar's office. We also administer all of the applications and the federal funding through financial aid, as well as scholarships and other kinds of awards. And that's through what would normally be called the financial aid office. So here at Susquehanna, it's Student Financial Services. So the first question really could be, what is financial aid? And it's a really broad term that may have a lot of different definitions. But we like to think of it, financial aid, as anything used to pay for a college education. Most commonly, this would be referred to, this is thought of as need-based gift aid. And what that means is gift aid refers to financial aid that is paid on your behalf to help cover your college investment that does not need to be paid back. Specifically, this would be things known as like grants or other gift aid. So most commonly, this would be the federal Pell Grant across the country. This is a federal one from the U.S. Department of Education that you do have to apply for and meet eligibility criteria. And we'll get into that here in just a minute. If you're a Pennsylvania resident, you may also qualify for a Pennsylvania state grant that would be administered through FEA, or the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. Both of these require a financial aid application and a FAFSA to apply, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. We also here at Susquehanna, on top of our merit-based scholarships that Ruben mentioned, also have some need-based grant funding that can be applied to your account as well after applying for financial aid. So from these different sources, or these are three of the largest sources where you may receive need-based gift aid after you apply for financial aid at Susquehanna. Another form would come in merit-based gift aid. So as opposed to applying for financial aid to be eligible for it, you would apply for the scholarship itself or admission to Susquehanna. This would fall into the category of the merit-based scholarships that Ruben had mentioned at the time of admission, but also this could come from scholarships from outside sources that you apply for. Things such as from your high school or local community organizations that you may be a part of. I always recommend students during their application search to set up an account at one of the online search engines and do some scholarship searches right now. We'll have information available for you on that on our website as well coming up. But these are all great opportunities to help fund your education that you don't need to pay back. So that's gift aid. That's the money that is automatically applied that is not your responsibility to pay for. Now on to self-help aid. Self-help aid is a different kind of financial aid that students may qualify for or utilize to help fund their education. And it's called self-help aid because it's on the student to pay these monies, whether it's up front or in time. The first we're going to talk about is federal work study. Federal work study is a form of financial aid that is federally funded that students may be eligible for from applying for financial aid. And it is money that actually funds employment while they are enrolled in school. At Susquehanna, these funds are paid directly to the student like a part-time job every other week. So if a student would have a job on campus, these work study funds would be paid to them like any other part-time job. Some students can use that funding to pay their account or pay for things like tuition or direct charges. However, most students use it for out-of-pocket expenses or save it up for other semester expenses like books or potentially transportation expenses and things like that. But federal work study is mostly part-time employment. And don't worry, if you don't qualify for federal work study in a financial aid application, there are also campus employment opportunities for students who don't qualify as well. Now, on top of work study, the other biggest form of self-help aid that students may utilize would come in the form of loans. Loans are monies paid on your behalf that you agree to pay back in time, most of the time and most commonly with interest. These come from a variety of sources, and I'm not going to be able to list them all right now, but I can tell you that some of the big ones would be the federal government. So there are federal direct student loans that students would be eligible for if they apply for financial aid and file a FAFSA. We're going to get to that in just a second. But these are monies that there is no additional credit application or background check or anything like that with federal direct student loans. If a student files their FAFSA, they would be eligible for some of these funds that they would pay back after they graduate. Another source of funding in terms of student loans and education loans would be from private or third-party lenders. Now, these would be monies coming from things like a bank, a credit union, or some other financial institution that loans money to a student or on a student's behalf to help cover their educational expenses. They can also loan these monies to parents as well for their student to attend. I will say that most students, if they are to utilize a private or third-party student loan, are going to need a credit-worthy cosigner before they can accept these loans. Also, federally, there is an opportunity for parents to borrow as well, and this would be through a Parent Plus loan. This loan would be in a parent's name for their student's application, or for their student's expenses, and this, again, could be paid back after graduation or while the student is enrolled. But it is an opportunity for parents to borrow for their dependent student educational expenses. Now, some other sources of funding to help cover an education that maybe aren't exactly financial aid through the normal means or through a FAFSA application would be some other ways to help cover the costs of education. So first of all, we always like to let students know that through our office, since we handle the billing and payments, we do have payment plan options available. Rather than one-time payments, many families find it advantageous to take advantage of spreading payments out over the course of a semester for that semester's charges. Whether it be 3, 4, 5, or 6-month payments, you can take advantage of a payment plan as opposed to one large payment. You would set that up later on prior to the semester beginning, but this is a nice option for many families. If you have any kind of college savings account or educational savings plan, these are wonderful opportunities to help cover some costs and save up over time. It's a little early yet, but once a family and a student know where they're going to be going to school, it's a good idea to give a call to the financial institution through which they've opened these accounts and just see what all kinds of requirements there will be, because every account may have some different requirements as to what they'll need before they'll make a payment on a student's behalf. And if you are unaware of what they're going to need, you can always call our office, but I would call their number first just to make sure. Also, if any students are veterans of the armed forces or are the dependents of a veteran, they may qualify for veterans education benefits. You need to make sure you speak with either an education officer, your parent, or go online to the VA website to find out what benefits you may be eligible for. Once you submit to us a certificate of eligibility, we'll be able to give you a better estimate of what kind of education benefits you could expect here at Susquehanna. But for anyone who is curious, we are also a Yellow Ribbon school, meaning we're a part of the Yellow Ribbon program. Finally, it's always a good idea to check with either your employer or a parent's employer to see if there may be any education benefits available as a benefit of employment. Many employers out there do offer some kind of either tuition assistance or scholarship opportunities, so always check with an employer to see if there may be any kind of opportunity available for either you or your student. Now, through all of these, many of these forms of financial aid will require a financial aid application, and we accept the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. I have a quick video to show you that's going to go over some real basics of it and to give you a good idea about what that process is like, and then I'll be back to talk to you a little more in just a minute.
If you're interested in financial aid for college or career school, you're going to need to fill out the free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. It takes most people about 30 minutes to complete online, and the best part, it's 100% free, and it provides you with access to grants, loans, and work-study funds from the federal government. And many colleges and states use FAFSA information to provide their own college or state financial aid. Before you fill out the FAFSA, it's a good idea to create your FSA ID, a username and password that lets you electronically sign your FAFSA and gives you access to various websites related to federal student aid. And here's an important tip. If your parent is providing information on your FAFSA, he or she will need his or her own FSA ID. Visit studentaid.gov/FSA ID for more information. Your FAFSA can be completed online at fafsa.gov, and help is provided throughout the online application process. You will need to fill out the FAFSA each year you are in school because your financial situation may change. Plus, you may be able to automatically transfer your tax data from the IRS, making the application even quicker to fill out. Each state and college or career school sets its own deadline for the FAFSA, so it's best to get it done early. Since some of the funds are available on a first-come, first-served basis, you don't want to miss out. Now that you know about the FAFSA, you might be asking, well, how much money will I get? Your college or career school will do the math, and there's a simple formula that they use. First, the college takes your cost of attendance, which is the total amount it will cost you to go to that school. Your cost of attendance will vary from school to school. Then, the college subtracts your expected family contribution, or EFC. Your EFC is based on information provided in your FAFSA and will not change based on the school you attend. However, the EFC is not necessarily the amount of money you will have to pay. Basically, your cost of attendance minus your EFC equals your financial need. Your college uses your financial need and other information to determine how much financial aid you can receive. See? Pretty simple. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
So that's just a little bit about how to apply for financial aid and what all goes into the financial aid application, as well as going over very quickly cost of attendance, expected family contribution, and things like demonstrated financial need. There are many more videos online at studentaid.gov, similar to that one, that make applying for financial aid and different forms of financial aid pretty easy to understand. I do recommend giving those a look. So in order to file your FAFSA, the first thing that came up in that video was you're going to need a Federal Student Aid, or FSA, ID and password. Both you and, if you're a dependent student, a parent, will need to have FSA IDs and passwords to file their FAFSA. make sure you write down and save the information regarding your FSA ID and password. You're going to need it every year. You'll need it this year again if you're going to log in and accept any federal student loans. And you'll need it in subsequent years, not only to apply for financial aid, but potentially to look up important information about student loans or other forms of financial aid that you may receive. So make sure you save that information, as it will come in handy later on. So in terms of applying for financial aid, you can submit your FAFSA at any time. October 1st is when it opens every single year, and it'll be open throughout the remainder of the application process for your admission and enrollment at Susquehanna and many other institutions. It's going to be based off of 2019 tax data for the 2021-2022 school year. I know I'm throwing a lot of years at you, but it uses prior year data. And one of the nice things about that is most families will have their taxes available and ready for them from 2 years prior when the time comes to file this. And many families can take advantage of what's known as the IRS data retrieval tool. In that video, it mentioned the data retrieval tool, where it can take your income information directly from the IRS and import it right into your FAFSA. It helps verify accuracy of information, and it can make your process a lot faster. Before you start filing your FAFSA, though, you should know where to find your income tax data from 2019 just to have it on hand, as not everybody can utilize the data retrieval tool. You will need to file your FAFSA every single year to continue being eligible for financial aid, and we have a lot of this information and more online via our college affordability checklist, so make sure you check that out for more details. So once you file your FAFSA and you get all of your information in, it's going to generate what's known as the Susquehanna University Award Letter, or what many people like to call a financial aid package. We send these to students once we have all of their information available, and it really outlines a lot of great information for them to have prior to making their college decision. So it will outline many different things. Your direct costs, which would be things that are billed directly to you for a year's education at Susquehanna. These would be things like tuition, fees, your room or meal plan charges will all be included in the direct costs. We'll also outline all of the financial aid for which you're eligible to receive. We will include both your merit-based scholarship from Susquehanna, as well as any other additional scholarships that we know about that you're eligible for. We'll include that need-based funding from the results of your FAFSA if you qualify for a FIA grant or a Pell grant, or even an additional Susquehanna University grant. We will include all of those. We're also going to include your federal direct loan eligibilities or federal work study. All of those items that we mentioned prior that you may be eligible for from filing your FAFSA and filing a financial aid application will be included in this award letter. And we're also going to talk about net cost. The net cost would be all of the direct charges, so the things that you would be billed for, as I said before. It will also list all of the forms of financial aid that will be applied to your direct costs. That would be things like your scholarships, grants, and loans, not work study, as we mentioned before. And it will come up with your estimated net cost, which is essentially your out-of-pocket expense for 1 year's enrollment at Susquehanna. So how do you get one? I'm glad you asked. It's very easy. It's a two-step process. First, you need to apply to Susquehanna University and receive your admission letter. That way we know that you've been admitted to the institution. You will have your scholarship information, and then we would get that information, and if we have a completed FAFSA, we would evaluate you for a financial aid package or a Susquehanna award letter. We have to have a complete and valid FAFSA, and it has to be sent to Susquehanna. I've included our code there on the screen for you if you're filing your FAFSA today, but it's 003369. So once we have all of that information together, we would send this to you and send you a notification that it is ready to be read so that you have a great idea of what aid you'd be eligible to receive and what your cost may be for a year at Susquehanna. So in terms of timeline, you can expect to receive these beginning in mid-November. If you're one of those students who receives an early admission to Susquehanna and you filed your FAFSA right as it was available on October 1st or soon thereafter, you'll be in one of the first rounds of students to receive their financial aid award letters sometime in mid-November. But we'll continue sending them throughout the application season and throughout the remainder of the academic year. But we do have to have completed and valid information for both an admission application and a FAFSA prior to receiving an award letter. We cannot do estimates based off of incomplete information. If our office reaches out and says we might need you to complete one or two more things prior to you getting a financial aid award letter, we please ask that you would do that so that we can get you the most information as soon as possible. But we often get a lot of questions this time of year and throughout the remainder of the year, and we are more than happy to work with you and answer those questions for you. Many questions tend to be personal or financial in nature when it comes to student financial services or covering the cost of an investment in education, and we totally understand that. So please contact our office. You can email us. You can look us up online. Many questions can be answered on our website, and we're more than happy to talk you through it or set up an appointment or a phone call to talk this through with you. I also included two links that are really important for students to look at right now. The first would be studentaid.gov. This would be the website from which you can get your FSA ID, file your FAFSA, learn more about student loans, Pell Grants, and all sorts of financial aid information. I highly recommend studentaid.gov. And for you Pennsylvania residents, make sure you log on to FIA's website at some point as well so you can be familiar with their grants and other aid programs through FIA in the state of Pennsylvania as well. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it and your interest in Susquehanna. I hope to see you on campus before long.